Welcome to Hacking Founders.
where we are unlocking the secrets of leadership and innovation so you can learn from others' experiences.
I'm Tamara Medina, leadership and business expert from Shapowaloa Solutions.
I'm Brother Elana, Head of Design and Innovation at Rocketband.
Stay with us. At the end of our podcast, we will have our special collaborator, the AI Roulette, who will hack our guest with some challenging questions.
We are excited to have Pilar Fernandez, an international go-to-market expert with over 20 years of experience. As a founder of iExpand, she helps health and tech companies accelerate their market entry. Pilar also created the Healthcare Go-to-Market Academy, aiding over 450 companies in building viable businesses. Welcome to the show, Pilar.
A pleasure to be here with you today. I'm really, really excited. Thank you for having us.
Thanks. To start with, tell us when and why you started everything that you are doing now today.
Yeah, I always tell a story. My first degree was in translation and interpreting. So when I broke into the technology industry, I started with a job with Cisco. Yeah, I started to translate basically the benefits of technology into socioeconomic good. So we work across the sectors, etc. And I think that summarizes a bit, what taking a technology to market is. A constant translation of this is the product, but how can this be useful for the sectors? What's the value that brings? And let's say that 7 years ago, I took another notch on this translation effort because I realized, already since the early ages of my career that it was not always the best product that made it to market and became a business success. It was sometimes the best go-to-market strategy. All these commercial experts, turning goal into something that the market wanted to consume, right? And what I observed, in the last few years, when I started more than 20 years ago, I know doesn't look it. Well, it does actually, but I've been around for a few waves of technology. I remember in a funny way, in the industry, sometimes they used to call us Teletubbies, like the ones talking, because we used to work always in tandem with an engineer, yeah? The engineer and the commercial person. And but then I didn't mind because I was making a lot of money because it's a very good career when you are successful. And then something that companies like Cisco and the big tech understand very well is that adoption of a technology happens better when you mix the deep specialists like the engineers, the data specialists, what have you, with the creative generalists that think out about the use cases, that educate the market, convince the market to dream with it. And we have been through a few waves. I mean, I have seen the wave of the internet. The internet protocol now is a given, but it was not a given. It was a deep tech at that time. Then cloud came. Now you have AI, but what you see is that the technology stack is becoming more and more and more complex because it's not that we are going from one to the other. Everything is becoming a whole, yeah? And what I have seen, in the last 10 years, I mean, we went from Teletubbies to 10 years ago, people trying to replace commercial experts with a website, digital marketing. Now people are talking about Gen AI replacing sales people. And I think there is a misunderstanding of what commercialization is. And what I see is that the revenues of a lot of startups are really going south, whereas, the expenses are going up. So it's in this last translation that I decided to create iExpand to help startups and scale-ups translate that product into a business. And how we do it is called go-to-market strategy or commercialization. It's where you go and why, with what, with whom, and how you make money. Sorry for the big introduction, but this is really the essence.
It's amazing.
25 years of career.
Super interesting, Pilar. Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
One
go
of the
for
things,
it. Go for it.
talking about translations, one of the things that I was really impressed when I was looking at your career is that you actually speak 9 languages, and when you do this translation into technology, are you doing it in these different 9 languages? Is there any kind of differences when when you're translating? I know that you'll be talking about the technology into the understanding of the user, but do you work in all these different languages, or what are the main languages that you work with at this stage?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's all about semantics. Even data is all about semantics, you could argue. And that's why I know it is difficult, because semantics are really difficult. I'm not sure, Tamara, if you refer to, let's say, commercial strategy, or you refer to product strategy, because I could give you the view on both.
If you could give us both, that would be very interesting.
Okay. So I'll start with the product of because that's the given. It's one of the things, when I was at the university, everybody was saying, "Oh, you're going to be replaced." It's like radiology now, yeah. You're going to replace translations. Translators are going to be replaced by internet because you had Google Translate. It was getting better. No, good translators still use nomenclatures, AI, everything, but they become editors. Like technology is the co-pilot. So all this very, very annoying work that I remember we had to do in the library, like we had to build the nomenclatures, let's say for the law sector by hand. That's what AI and data-driven solutions are helping us with, but still, something that's very sterile, you can still translate. You can translate very well, or when you go out to a trip and you want to ask for a coffee. But when it comes pharma and clinical, what people don't know is that there are standards to do that correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So you require specialists. They're not called translators anymore. They're called content experts, yeah? And that's not only from a linguistic perspective. It's also from a meaning perspective. Because, for instance, let's take the example of this system checker that was going to launch, that launched actually in Tanzania. They were from Germany, yeah? If you hear somebody that explains a symptom, right? And they said, "I am possessed by the devil." Yes. In Europe, probably they will think you're a bit, you will need, psychiatry, some kind of help, mental health. And I'm not saying that as a joke. I think it's a serious, I do take mental health very seriously. But this is the way, in some countries in Africa, they would explain some diseases. Because the education that we have, and they had to translate it in that way because you cannot use the same prompts and trends, because the reality is the following, and that's what people don't understand. There are 40 healthcare systems in the world, and there are more than 800 million people who have never seen a doctor, most of them women. So we don't even, we have to explain and we have to adapt, the solutions to the country, to the environment, to the context. And that also affects the protocols. The translation even affects the protocols, because if you have fever, again, in Germany, in winter, you might have flu or cold or norovirus or what have you. But if you develop a fever during malaria season in Brazil, that could be malaria. Yeah. So that's the thing. It's not only the translation of the language, it's the whole translation of the context. And be very sure of that is like in things like healthcare, especially when you're doing triage or system checking, having the right language is essential. You cannot have Brazilian Portuguese in Portugal, or it is very sensitive, yeah, because we need to trust the device and we need the device to speak to us in our language. Of course, especially in legacy markets, in markets where there is not so many alternatives, people might take it, but it doesn't mean that we should do it in the right way. So when it comes to, to negotiation, to commercial strategy, of course, we need to understand how the culture speaks, how they communicate, direct, indirect. I am, in case you haven't noticed, I'm a bit chatty. I'm Spanish, that's my way to do. But when I was doing business, for instance, in Estonia, in Finland, I be very quiet. We negotiate by silence. You go there, you do the presentation, you let people simmer, and you adapt. Because it's important that you take these contextual parts into market. Am I always on target? No. I'm still me. I think 20% of us should always be, but we have to be respectful of this type of timings and negotiations, etc. Because a language is not only semantic, house, casa, or whatever that might be bite in Arabic. A language is also how people articulate and perceive realities. So
I always say, in order to learn a new language, you're learning a new culture. You cannot learn a language without the culture.
yeah, and that's why in going to data, the meaning, semantic interoperability is probably the biggest obstacle at the moment, because it's very difficult. Humans are difficult, and the nuances are very, very, very complex. But anyway, I'm not sure this replied to your answer to your question.
Yes, definitely.
So it's passioning how obviously the how a company or business they have a product or service, and they need to when they want to expand, they need to adapt it as well as you do when you're going to do the presentations and all the stuff. So what would be the one of the best advices for any startup or scale up? They think, okay, let's conquer, I don't know, South America, anywhere, any part of the world.
Well, first of all, is one of there is a lot of noise in the market. Number one, where is the noise coming from, and why? I'm going to be absolutely controversial here, if I can.
That's
but,
why we are in Hacking
okay.
Founders. So
I mean, Silicon Valley is creating a lot of books and a lot of tips, but it's a highly subsidized market. You could argue that companies like Uber haven't turned a profit in 15 years, but they survive because there's access to capital, what have you. Nothing against Uber, we all use Uber, right? But they're there because of a reason. The reality is that a lot of companies outside, a lucky few, will have to show some traction. So all these things that, let's build and break, learn and expand, scalable, I'm sorry, nothing scales in health tech. So get over it. Replicable is good enough. Even getting a replicable things. This is not a pair of shoes that you can export to all because everybody has the same 2 feet or pair of stilettos, yeah? This is like, what people need to understand is when it comes to healthcare, and that's what makes it so interesting and so challenging at the same time, and that's why you have to have a bit of passion and grit to stay here for a while, is that look around you. We are all here in this call from different regions or countries or live in different places. But of the audience, look around you. The way you experience, receive, and pay for healthcare is different. Which means that going with the same go-to-market strategy to every market is crazy. So you have to tailor that. It doesn't mean that you have to make 206, or rather, if you take the jurisdictions, because countries like Spain have 17 health jurisdictions, yeah. So it doesn't mean that you have to do 300 go-to-market strategies, because what you have to do is when you take a step back, look how the market is moving. Where are the dynamics? You have legacy markets that operate into 2 buckets. You have social insurance led, they have codes, and tax led, it's the beverage model, yeah? So 2 blocks. Europe could be divided into 2 blocks. And you have a few countries like America that has the 4 systems. Because the other 4 systems, of course, the private sector, you could argue that it's out of the pocket a system, I don't know. And the mix, so if you establish these clusters, you know that if you are going to market in a code-driven, you have examples in Europe like Diga, Pekka, These are code. Netherlands. Yes, you have a solution, an app, you got a code, and maybe you can sell. At least you are allowed to sell. It doesn't distribute well, but this is the thing. But then you go to Spain, you go to UK. There you're going to be after block contracts, most likely, for the same solution. So you have to adapt, because who is going to pay you, how they're going to pay you, and where they're going to pay you is going to change. So this is the thing. You go to Africa, absolutely different dynamics. You come here to the Middle East, UAE, very different dynamics. So yeah, you don't go to the market you want to. The market will choose you depending on what you bring to the market and if it's viable for both sides.
That's a great advice. Most of the startups today, they fall into that trap, and they falling, obviously. In my case, we building those stacks and those platforms, and they think that, wow, this amazing product, it will sell just alone, and it's not true, because you need to be understanding where you're landing and what they are their needs. Maybe some countries, they are more focused on results and not only the emotional part. So it's quite fascinating.
Yeah, because the thing is, again, we are in the era of shortcuts. I mean, technology has become very, very complex. It is. I'm even around, for 20 plus years. It is complex because you don't have only AI, which arguably is ML with a bit of a sprinkle on top. You have cloud security, blockchain, IoT, you name it. I call it the basic with a Q, because even some quantic inspired applications could be added on. I just came from a conference in Doha on this. So, and then people are saying, okay, no, it doesn't work like that. It's like we are shortcutting the first step of any entrepreneur. And the first step is, are you needed? Where, how, in what format? So what happens, they start with creating a product because the market is pushing us to that. Let's build something, let's build product. We are not running out of products. We have enough products to last us, 100 years, but we are missing the business, because we need is to have something that the market wants and is willing to adopt. This build and they will come was working 10, 15 years ago. And why? Because cloud was still not a widely available platform. And if you come from product development, it's like it was very, very, very expensive to build a product, a software product. Even a website, people were paying millions, I remember.
Well, we used to build video games that people, they're thinking that is joke, but most of the SaaS products today that now we're building, there is a joke, because a video game has a lot more complexity. But yeah,
Yeah,
sorry
no,
to
and
interrupt.
actually a lot of health tech companies came from video games, like Twill, formerly Happify. So, yeah, I mean, but then what happened? Cloud happened, which put down the pricing of building software. It just went up. Now, IQVIA has just released a report, and then there are something like 220 or 230,000 apps, and the market has created 1 million medical apps. This is only apps. I'm not taking into account the platform of everything and other softwares. So it is crazy. You need to make sure that when you launch your product, there's a market waiting for you. So you should never shortcut the first step. Are you needed in that market? Why? Where? Can you afford the market? Can the market afford you? Only then you start building the product. And people start with the product and they dress it with a business model, normally B2B, B2C. I don't know what that is, because business models are a bit more complex than that. That's a distribution. And that's it. And then people say, oh, SaaS works. This is not a commercial strategy. First, Are you needed? And then how can you make money in a replicable way? And there are many ways.
And
The alpha
talking,
lies in the business model.
and talking about shortcuts, and you being work with so many companies, from the leadership perspective and working with so many founders, what would be kind of the shortcuts that you would advise from the leadership perspective? Kind of what advice would you give to the founders when it comes to the go-to-market strategy? What is the kind of the mindset that they need to have in order to be successful?
I always jokingly, because we also do a lot of, we run a lot of accelerator programs for commercialization, yeah? And I always start with the same slide, because it's not that commercial people are better than product people or the other. No, it's a question of what we discussed before, translation. If a founder comes from a highly specialized field, science, technology to a certain extent, etc., is normally going to have a specialist mindset. Yeah, you're very good at doing something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, tinker, tinker, tinker to get it right. That's the thing. If you want to become an entrepreneur, you need to change the mindset and become a generalist, because that's what a CEO is.
Mm-hmm.
That's what a business is, yes? So it's the shift. I always say, how many of you are founders? And then you have like people, everybody more or less. They're in the courses because they're founders or want to be founders. And then the second question is always, how many of you are entrepreneurs? And they already know there is a trap. And the difference is the business. Entrepreneur creates a business.
Mm-hmm.
And a business is something that the market sells. So an entrepreneur in the works has two problems. Well, a founder has two problems, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
First, they launch something to fix somebody else's problem.
Mm-hmm.
Normally, it's a problem fixer USP. But their problem is to make money by fixing that problem, to build a business. So they have to go from founder to entrepreneur, from product to business, from a specialist to generalist, and very, very, very important, from perfectionist to growth mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Because a product has to be 95% right, or will have whatever the benchmark is, yeah? But in commercialization, I can tell you, we fall all the time till we get it 1% right. But we only need that one partner, that one market, that one segment to make us thrive. So I always say to people, like, after so many years, is that I don't know what might work, I know what doesn't. And then we tinker till we figure out what works. But we're very good at failing, though. I mean, experience brings you, because it's not, falling doesn't kill you, it's how badly you fall, right? So we are flawless, as I say, after a few years. But this is the thing, and not every entrepreneur or founder, let's say founder, can do both.
Mm-hmm.
So, but they need to know, they need to hire somebody who's that tandem. So we go back to the Cisco story where we have the engineer and the salesperson. In a company, you need to have the deep knowledge, because we are talking about know-how sector, and the commercial knowledge.
I think that's
Company.
I think that's precisely the challenge, that at the very, very early stages as founders or entrepreneurs, you need to be able to do all these different areas until to get to the stage that you can start hiring people or collaborating with people that have the skills that you might not have. But at the very early stages, you have to be thinking about all those things, and just raising the awareness of them in the programs that you have.
Yeah, and I think it's like a kind of talking about the mindset. And I know that because, well, I'm married to a PhD in physics and everything. I know how they think, and I know the optics. And sometimes they see commercialization as something easy, like the difficult part is to create something. If it was so easy, why are so many companies not making money? Why was the RNA, which was pivotal to produce the vaccine, sitting in a drawer for 30 years? So it's just a different skill sets,
Yeah.
but it's a creative task. What works for one company might not work for the other, and we have to constantly iterate. So you require that skill set in your company. Otherwise, you're just a founder and create IP, and there's also a business model. Companies create IP and sell IP. But if you want to create a business, you need a business mindset. So speaking of the translations, a company has to speak the language of business, like you
Yeah.
speak the language of regulation, of product, and everything. If you don't speak the language of business, you will never have a business.
That's correct.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. So we living now in an era that AI is supercharging everyone. We have been seeing, solopreneurs, they're calling now, being successful with the first version of the product and everything. So what is your take on that? Because we building, we used to acquire those knowledge by as entrepreneurs, but now we have kind of a copilot, or without saying any brand, um, that they can help us, and they can enlighten us. It's not like it's going to solve all the problems, but you have the knowledge and a way to start very quick, very fast. What do you think about it?
I mean, I would say that, well, depending how you define AI, because ML has been around for quite a long time, automation. If you look at most of the AI plays, the automation on steroids. Okay, so let's cut this hype. And there's a lot of things that we still need to do with that. By the way, we have to digitize a lot of workflows. From a business perspective, I give it a lot of thought. There is definitely a market for tech enablers, picks and shovels. Just look at the Nasdaq. It gives you an idea who's making money. I don't see a lot of AI built solutions making money. And I'm not saying being profitable. I'm not using that word. I'm saying most of them will be tools or pick and shovels or something. Yes.
Yeah.
What are the AI models of the future? Is like we don't know yet, because we need to figure out a way to pay for that. I mean, people forget that Google never thought they would make a lot of revenues with ads. It just came naturally. So the business model, the bad part of that when we're talking about new technologies is that it's a lagging indicator. Normally they come after. It's what's happening in healthcare. How do we pay for prevention? We don't know yet. We're kind of patching. So AI, I mean, I'm more concerned now, and we're more involved in finding the use cases for AI that generate some viable business for our companies. Yes. So it's not about what AI does here or there, because we want to avoid to go from point solutions, all these apps, to agent patch solutions. Yeah. So we have to take a step back and see how AI can help us re-engineer the processes, re-engineer workflows, and at that create some interesting use cases that will provide some interesting revenue for the sectors. In this case, the healthcare. So I would say it is emerging. People are making money here and there, data front doors, R&D workflows, for pharma, etc. But it's very, very patchy at the moment. So the question is tinkering more on the use case and finding how to buy time in some cases. I don't know if the answer to your question is a bit fluffy, but so
No. I
AI
think
is
it's
very flat because it has a lot of
yeah,
different.
it's huge, and it's we still finding out some industries, like obviously for us as developers, we've seen disrupted and accelerated, because you can try and fall, and as we were talking about earlier, crashing stuff faster and having more ideas, and ideation is going faster. In creative industry, I'm not telling you, I coming from that industry, and we thought that we were the last ones to get disrupted, and it has been, the last 5 years has been the opposite, with the with all the AI, generative AI in the, and it's coming from other industries. I've seen, and I've been testing gaming, for instance, games that they're adapting or the way so they're creating new parts of the game because you play in this way, and this is fascinating. So it's
It
very, very
is
interesting.
confusing. Look, there is always a new wave of technology, is always an opportunity, a threat, or neutral.
Mhm.
It's how you play it. And that's why I'm saying the commercial aspect of the company is key. You have to have a sort of market radar constantly because the players change constantly. The moment somebody does an M&A, your market could be gone.
Yeah.
Your customer could be gone if you are selling to the government and they do a super app with somebody else. So you have to constantly look, tinker, have a hybrid, go-to-market strategy. From a product perspective, of course, in healthcare, fidelity is key, right? We're a hi-fi model. My only concern, this is a question I would like to launch, throw there to the audience, a philosophical thought I was tinkering with recently, is the following. All these kind of LLMs, whatever, they normally tend to provide you average of something, average of the information, average. But we need excellence in healthcare, not average. Assuming that the average is based on quality data. So this is a thing, is everybody going to be doing the same average thing with the same average time? Because average is not going to work for us in many sectors. So excellence will still require curation, human curation.
Yeah. I
The question
actually,
is how many people will want to consume excellence is another.
yeah, no, but I think it will, because I taking this, and I'm involved in a creative industry. I mean, SaaS product that it will be involving AI, but also authors, and is that's the key. I think at some point we're talking about the singularity and everything, but this is another thing. But in our case, in terms of that, it will be that the content that is creating generative AI will is very similar, whatever the tool you use. That's where I think the human factor is super important. Experts with the knowledge behind it, they will use it, and the results they will be more enriched than just using, yeah, as you well said, the
Yet it's
very
not
general.
getting there. I mean, I'm not even talking, let's put the excellence aside. Let's talk about diversity and inclusion. In genomics, there was a report like 3 years ago, they were saying that 86% of genomics data are based on Caucasian data sets, mostly
Yeah,
male. And then I thought, well, but it's getting better. It was up from 82% a few years before. Everybody's using the same data sets. In the US, in genomics, they use data sets from 3 cities. So you understand what I mean? We are repurposing. So where does that leave inclusivity, diversity of people from other? I mean, I think that goes back to this, it's not even average, it's going to be about the same vanilla. And we need to really go back to focus less on the output. You could argue that LLMs about output, what you churn, yeah? And focus more on the input. Because what goes in is where the bottleneck is to bring us to that excellence as also inclusive of the rest of the world. The moment we start developing drugs that are based only on a small part of the population, we are discriminating people at algorithmic level, not at money level. And that's a bioethic concern that we should all be very aware of.
that's very interesting. So we were talking about AI, and we have our collaborator coming in to put some questions that we are not daring to ask you straight away, Pilar.
I
So
will
here
try
we
not to
are.
hallucinate.
Let's see what's cooking behind the scenes today. So, yeah. Have you ever had to choose between your ethics, and your business goals? What did you decide, and how did it feel?
Oh, okay, that's a good one. And yes, I multiple times. there was a time where the hardware sector, I know now it sounds like, actually, we're back to the hardware sector with NVIDIA, but in Cisco, where it was the Wild West out there. So you had a target on the one hand, big target, and you had your ethics. And then I chose ethics because at the end of the day, you need to do things you are comfortable with, and a company is not worth, if you are in the company that forces you to go against your ethics, you should change the company, not yourself.
Mhm.
Ethics is for me to let go of a deal because, or to even represent a company when I know they're not doing something right, even though they will pay me to, yeah? Or not to try to oversell to a customer when they don't need something that you want to sell. So, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not Mother Teresa, of course, but yes, I think
No one is, but I think having principles.
if money was driving me only, I would not be working in with iExpand, doing startups because, frankly, corporations pay much better. So it is really a passion.
Thank you for sharing your answer with us. And before we talk, we go to another question from the AI. One of the things that you were talking just before about the expertise and excellence, you talk a lot about the challenges that the companies face, how you kind of support in those challenges. But as far as your own personal career, what do you think is your biggest lesson or challenge that you have faced, and how did you address it and overcome it? Like, what is your biggest learning so far?
Is the biggest challenge is people, the good people. When I launched iExpand, I mean, I had different, well, you could say different plan. It was only when I started to look for health tech experts with a track record on commercialization that I realized there was a big gap in the market. So then we moved into creating accelerations because I thought we instill the DNA of commercialization in the founders, give them the tools, at least, they can tinker and learn. The biggest challenge is talent, lack of talent. And it's not lack of talent so much. It's not that we need more coders and more people who do product. We need more people who are actually to build business, who are generalists. And the whole sector is not. I mean, the good generalists are already working and very well paid, by the way, by big tech and corporations, because they understand that if you hire somebody who knows how to make money, that's it. You can go golfing, yeah? And I think the sector of the startups, first of all, they don't realize how important business is because I think they don't understand what commercialization is. There is being a delusion by people writing that commercialization in this whatever, B2B, B2C, this is not commercialization. It's 25 different factors and it takes years to hone. It's not something that you shortcut, with a 30-day course, yeah? Because it's a lot of aspects. I mean, believe me, it's 25. I wrote a book that I haven't published yet. I'm still, there's always something coming, like a move or whatever, but it's 25. And it's the more of these dots that you connect, the more creative you will be, to do the go-to-market. But it's talent. But talent in the know-how and talent in driving. People who drive, who are tractors, who bring things forward, who have the grit.
And I think so something that it aligns with the answer that you just gave us as far as the ethics. I think something that is very important with the talent is hiring the people not only that has the the drive, the passion, but also that fit the your own company values, no, the founders' company values. I think that's fundamental.
I think in our sector is like, unless a few tourists, everybody is quite vocational. But still, even if you do it for vocation, you need to make money. You need to make money to be viable to help others, right? But if it was one thing, if I had a magic wand, you give me a magic wand and say, well, what problem would you like to see? Please send me a list of 100 top commercial experts in health tech that, are willing, because then you can just build a whole You don't have to do anything else. And I think that's the same thing for everything. If you look at entrepreneurship, what is it? Very, very brutally simplified. It's three pillars. It's commercial strategy, talent, and execution. If you have the right people who can do the three, I mean, it will be difficult, but it will get there. And this is what people don't realize. And I repeat to those out there, commercialization is how to translate the product into a business. It's very, very, very difficult. So start dating, start looking out for people. Don't promote somebody into VP of commercial sales if they never sold a thing in their life. Look at the track record. Don't be blinded by PhDs on something, nothing wrong with that. What is the PhD of sales they got? Look at the track record. Don't judge the book. Don't judge the tree by the name, but by the fruit. That would be my tip.
Amazing. A lot of things to learn today. I think we got a time for another one.
Last
So
one.
let's see what our AI roulette has for you.
I like this little guy.
Oh,
Okay. What's the biggest risk you've taken that others thought was insane, and how did it pay off or not?
Well, quitting my corporate career for sure to try to work with the startups when everybody was saying, but they don't pay. When the courses they don't pay, and then you find a way, to make it happen.
yeah, I
A few
second
people
that. I
still-
I used to work for corporate as well, and start my own startup, and then working with others. It's challenging, as you well said, but it's very rewarding. You building something that it wasn't existing there, rather than taking a briefing and just executing and having a say on the way, and obviously with good and wrongs. But it's very rewarding.
I'll second that because I also used to work for a corporate. I left, and I always say that the best thing that happened is to join the corporate, and then the second best thing is to leave it, because at the same time you learned a huge amount of things, and being able to take that experiences into your own consultancy and working with other companies is invaluable as well.
That's a great tagline, Tamara. I really love it because it is true that there were a lot of things that unconsciously we learned during the corporate world, but they bloom during the startup. So yes, it's great, to have both worlds. Yeah. Is it always fun, guys? What do you think? My question is to you.
If it's always fun, no, it's not. It's not. But even in corporate world, it wasn't fun either. Sometimes it was fun. It depends on the project I was working on. But it became always the same. I was in a factory, and I couldn't access to different sectors. For instance, we're working with different sectors. Rocket Van, and that's the beauty. I'm learning every day. It's amazing. New founders, new people, and also new products and services, and translating to our expertise. So I think that's what is the paying off. Yeah.
I think for me, I always say that entrepreneurship is like a roller coaster. Like once you're in, you just can't get out. And basically, every time you go to the top, you feel, okay, I got it. And then you right back down and you go up again. And it's like a constant moving up and down throughout the journey. But it's about, kind of
Because you
just
do it in
going
the
with
right
it and
way.
enjoying it and thriving through that. Yeah.
Because you do it in the right way. Because I always say, when you start feeling, I would say if you want to feel comfortable, buy a sofa, a good sofa, but no, become entrepreneur. Because the moment you think you're too comfortable, you're doing something wrong. So whether it's doing a podcast or whether it's doing a you have to constantly push, because otherwise the market will take over you. So
You need to feel comfortable with uncertainty. You need to be able to cope with uncertainty. There's nothing, I always say there's nothing sure in life. The only three things sure in life is constant change. We all gonna die or transition, and we all gonna pay taxes. So otherwise, nothing else
well,
is for sure.
I will Ah, yes, we have to be positive. But I have a question for you. What do you think about Jensen Huang just said this weekend? I saw something, but he always says the same that you have to suffer and feel the pain to create a business. How right is he?
I think it's a bit uh, stretching too much. I think it's like not focusing on the pain, but it's true that you need to be able to acknowledge that you're wrong certain times. You need to
Mhm.
be teachable all the time and getting all the bad and good things and celebrating good things is hard for,
Mhm.
for entrepreneurs that we are on the battlefield, but it's very, very key. And I'm recently started to learn that, and I was thinking it's not only battling and just pushing as an entrepreneur is important. You need to keep going, but also to stop, seeing, oh, look what we achieved, it's good, celebrate, and also analyze what is not. But only whipping yourself is not is not
I
good
thought it was
strategy.
a bit too much, but I think the point he wants to come across is that entrepreneurs or startup owners have become the new rock and roll stars
Yeah.
of this decade, right? And I think a lot of people come and they think it's going to be fun. It's going to no,
Mhm.
it's going to be. It requires a lot of grit,
Mhm.
resilience, and then it's like, and it's also going back to Tamara's question before. It's the mindset. They also have to be willing,
Mhm.
because otherwise it's like, okay, you have your little entrepreneurial venture for 2-3 years, but it's such a waste of talent and resources and everything. So it has to be something that, yep. But anyway, I think we are, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you have any more questions.
We
We
do
have many
tons,
more,
tons, but I think
but I think we need to do a second podcast with you.
yeah,
Once you launch your book, hopefully it will be soon.
yeah. For instance,
No, you wait for the book. Yeah, the book is 95% written, and some of
okay.
the people who were interviewed know about that.
Great.
But as somebody said, 90% of a bridge is not a bridge. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it has to. I will focus on 25 on the last leg, but I'm using the book all the time anyway because we have the courses. We use it for commercial due diligence for investors. In our own data, we have also to be more scalable. So, in a
Amazing.
conclusion, if anybody is listening there and wants to break into entrepreneurship, to become an entrepreneur, that means create a business. Two top traps or tips, to take into account. Two questions: are you needed in that market, that shape, that format? Please look at the market, look at the competition, look at the segments, and be real. Yeah. And then, if you are needed, how can you make money in a replicable way? If you are two people, don't give me you're going to take 10% of the market. Not even Amazon has 10% of the market in cloud, right? So be real, tinker, and then get the people on board, the right people on board. If you the risk on those two questions, you will probably stack up the odds in your favor.
Amazing.
Quite.
Thank you
Amazing
very much,
things.
Pilar.
Thank you very much, Pilar. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and looking forward to interacting with you in real life as well.
For
Thank you.
sure.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
Thank you for listening. Join the conversation, follow, like, and subscribe on our different platforms.
This podcast was brought to you by Rocket Van, Shapowaloa Solutions, and Harrington Blue and Partners.